some of the things that I had some of you ask questions, and always ask questions if you're not sure. That is just fine. Okay. So this particular question on page 3 doesn't mention a trade-in. If it's asking me for the sticker price, some of you were not sure, well, which ones are my options? I can't tell. So I would say, freight, air tax, and trade-in, these are definitely not options that you add to the car. So kind of cover that up. And so everything else that is mentioned, that will be considered an option. See it that way. Uh, and so what needs to happen is you take your base price and you just add all the options to it, including, so just so you know, on the key, I did the options separately, and I added to my base the tax and the PDI, freight and PDI is right there. And some of you asked about tire tax. If it's not mentioned, forget about it, right? Don't make stuff up, just go with it. And so this is your sticker price. That's what we call the province. Actually, 1 year just asked for the sticker price. And a lot of students did this part here. They were like, oh no, like times 1.12. And it's like, no, sticker price, no taxes, right? That's all it is. It's simply adding whatever is mentioned. I think I need you to be aware that there won't always be this many things that you need to add. It could have been that all of this was gone and all it mentioned is freight and maybe not even air tax, just that. So what's the sticker price there? Well, your base price plus the 1950, that's it. Okay, so you have to be comfortable with less and with more, right? Like it depends on the question. No trade-in. So in this case, if you use the formula for new, it calls for sticker minus trade-in, and there is no trade-in. So basically, all of this is being taxed, right? You bring it down times 1.12, you get this as your final. So if you get into your homework, it's okay to write it down. I'm just not gonna go slow probably for you here. Okay, and then how much taxes only? So if it's taxes only, the 1.12 turns into 0.12, and then you have your taxes. Okay. Sure, there's another way. Absolutely, you can take that number, subtract it, right? Subtract these two, you'd get the same answer. Whatever works for you there. And then we did not mention that you had a trade-in to prevent the dealer from inflating the price. That's, by the way, a good strategy. Don't tell the dealership that you have a trade-in, right? Otherwise, they might say, oh, you have a trade-in, and they'll up the price on you, just to be safe. And then, so now that the trade-in is mentioned, you go back to the sticker price, like the 56,260 you had before. Take away the trade-in. That needs to happen first, and then you're only taxed on what's left over. That's a pretty cool feature, actually. If somebody told you, what do you want, $7,689 cash, or do you want an old beater that I have to trade in? You probably want the beater before the cash. You're gonna save a little bit on taxes, right? Because they take that off before they charge taxes. So it's a very important concept that you take that off before taxes are added. Because some students will do this times 1.12 and then they'll take the taxes or the trade-in off. It's wrong. That's a -1. Okay. So here you have 54,399. Total cost of the car after tax, right? It's this here plus the trade if they ever asked. Of course, this wasn't part of this page. I just added that later on because sometimes they have done this, right? So you just need to know you paid this, and remember you gave this as part of payment, right? They just didn't tax it. So keep that in mind. Which other page did I assign? 9? Okay, thank you. Let's go to 9. So here you had some, right? Just some quick, like, do you know what you're doing kind of thing. So the base option, freight, there's no trade. And in that case, you just add everything up and then tax it, you get this. And most of you check the key, I'm sure. And then I throw a curveball here where the freight is 3% of the base price. So you really had to find 3% of this. And that's 526.20. And there is a trade-in. So this might look a little confusing, but really what I'm doing is I'm adding these three things together. That would be my sticker price. And then I subtract the trade-in and add multiply by 1.12. And so it's 18,030. And the same goes here. So it's basically this plus this plus this. That's your sticker in this case, right? These three combined would be your sticker price. Take away the trade-in, add taxes to it. Simple as that. Okay. And then I had one more here. Was there a problem with this one? Were we okay? Just nod and pretend like you did it, right? Like if you didn't do your homework, you just like, I have eagle eyes, I can see whether or not you did. Anyways, I think that one was pretty straightforward, but there was no trade-in. And the depreciation here, I'll talk about it. But we will do more of this today. So if the car devalues, right, loses 20% per year, how much is the van worth after 1 year? We always use our sticker price. Okay, that's one thing I have to mention. So you take your sticker, you find 20%, which is this much. So you're losing this much the first year. We subtract it from our original starting amount, and so your car is worth 25,000 and some, right, after 1 year. And that would just continue for as many years as they ask us for. All right. Okay. Remember, I cannot do the work for you, right? So just remember that. I can try and explain it, but I cannot do it all for you. Okay. So here we go. Let's talk about depreciation. So we kind of ended on page 3, and so now I'm gonna go to page 4. And that's an important concept. So for the most part, cars are considered depreciating assets, right? Those are things you own that lose their value. I think we're all aware of that. So as soon as you drive off the lot, even if you said like after a day or two, it's like, I really don't want it, you want to sell it now, chances are you're not going to get your full amount back. And so we all understand that, I think. So a car can lose up to 20% of its value, right? That's the first year. And over the first 5 years, fall to around 40% of the original price. Okay. And over the first 5 years, fall to around 40% of the original price. That's pretty crazy if you think about it. That means it loses about 15% of the value each year after the first year. This is one of the main disadvantages of purchasing a new vehicle. So I will highlight that with a different color. Because one of the things in this course is I'm going to ask, or the province will ask you quite often to explain or state something that has zero math involved. Okay, and I think you're probably somewhat used to it. I'm thinking in grade 11, the graphing unit, you might have had to explain, right, what's happening in the graph or something like that. There's more of that in grade 12, but you have your study sheet. The rate of depreciation depends on the make and model. as well as the kilometers accumulated, right? So I don't know. I think this graph is worth noting, right? You have a car, and you always start with 100% of the value, and then this car loses value, but not as much as others. Okay, so it slowly just goes down like that, and then you have another car. So I'm thinking imports, right? Imported cars, they lose their value. So imports would probably be the orange. They would lose their value, but not as much as, I don't know, what's in between? VW, something like that. It's still an import, but it would all it depends, right? You gotta kind of do your research on the car you're interested in. And then you have your domestic cars. These are your Fords, your GMs, your Chevys, right? They lose probably more rapidly um, than others, right? So I drive an F-150 and I have a Jeep Wrangler. Right? That's my wife's car, by the way. She keeps the Wrangler. Um, the Jeeps, they don't lose their value that much for some reason, right? F-150 has lots of them, so it has to do with supply and demand as well. It has to do with reputation and so forth. Anyways, oh, can I say one thing though? So look at this. If you kind of, I think right about here, it kind of flattens, right? After year 9, yes, the cars still lose value, but it's not as steep, right? You notice that? So it's the first couple, like it's at the first 9 years or so where most of the value is lost, and then it slows down after. So I'm pretty sure you can attest to that. If you go on Kijiji and you buy a $5,000 car today, you drive it for a couple of years, you can probably get 5 grand if you take care of it. You might be able to get that back a couple of years down the road, right? It doesn't just keep plummeting after a while. So that's just something to make note of. Okay, let's do some math now. Okay, let me get this figured out here, camera. Dinesh is a carpenter in Thompson. He wants to buy a pickup truck. The truck is valued at $28,595. The estimated depreciation rate is 20% per year. That's a pretty standard rate, by the way. What is the depreciation amount after 3 years? And what is the residual value after 3 years? I will explain that in a bit. I just want you to be aware of this box right here. Okay. We use the MSRP or the sticker price, whichever one is mentioned, and we do not add taxes. Okay. Do not add taxes to these types of questions. We don't care about taxes here. We just on the base value, that's all we care about. So calculations, I'll tell you right off the bat, this chart is not going to be there down the road. This is just to help us out to do the first couple of examples. So here we go. Year 1, you take what you start off with, 28,595. You multiply that by 0.20 or 0.2. Let's go up here to 20% and just, right, we're telling ourselves that's 0.20 or 0.2. We divide that by 100. Grab your calculator. 28,595 times 0.2 or 0.20. It doesn't matter. So the first year you lose 5,719. So that's how much you lost. What's the residual value is basically, can I Under residual values, you can look at it as remaining value. Same thing. Think of residue, right? Residue is like what's left over. Residual, so it's the remaining value. So what you need to do here is you go 28,595 minus what you've lost that year. So I'm going to grab my calculator. $22,876. And Mr. Isfeld would want us to put the 2 zeros there, right? I don't know if, what are some other teachers? Mr. Slavinsky, I don't know if he does the same thing. I have to talk to him. I talked to him, but not about math, right? It's interesting. It doesn't matter. In this case, there are no cents, but it doesn't hurt. Okay. All right. So let's understand this. The depreciation amount, the loss, this is loss. The loss is this much first year, and now my remaining value is 22,876. That's after the first year. We bring that with us. Okay, we take this number with us, and we repeat the process. In this case, it's 20%. Every year you lose 20% of what remains. Okay, so I still have this on my calculator, that number. I'm just going to take it and multiply it by 0.2. You lose a little bit less. Okay, this is where a lot of students, when on the exam they freeze. It happens, right? They take this number, just multiply it by 2. Like if it's for 2 years, like, hey, it's just 5,000 times 2. Not the case. You lose that the first year, and then the second year you lose a little bit less. And then you just take whatever you the value was before and just subtract it like this. I would at least have one example written out. That's 18,380. So after 2 years, your car is only worth 18,000 and some. Okay. Let's do this for one more year. You take this number, you bring this over. And then we're going to add some color to it if you want to, at least. Take that number times 0.2. So now we're losing 3660, 16. Oops, don't forget the 80 cents. There you go. I think I typed in, oh, there we go. 14,640, 64. And so this table gives us a bunch of information. We could figure out the total depreciation. Okay. Total depreciation. We're just going to add these 3 numbers up. I'm going to call, this is basically answering A right here. A, you would just add up these 3 numbers. $13,954.36. I'm gonna probably put a box here just to show that, right, you've been adding these three numbers up. And then B, the total of the residual value in this case is 14,640 and 64 cents. It's basically this number in there. If you'd like to highlight, I'm just going to show you that I'm taking this number and I'm using it here, right? And then I grabbed this number and I used it for year 3. A couple of things to make you aware of. Sometimes the question says loses 15% the first year, or let's say 20% the first year, and then loses 15% thereafter. So then you would go 0.20 here, but this would be 0.15, 0.15, right? So just read the question carefully and you'll be fine. Be familiar with what is the residual value. It's actually the remaining value, and the depreciation amount is the loss. After 1 year, you lost this much. After 2 years, you'd have to add these two. And then obviously after 3, we already figured that out. Sometimes the province, one full question, 1 page per question, by the way. Your exam will feel like a booklet like this, even though it's like 1 question per page. So they might just ask you, find the value of the car after 1 year. All you have to do is this first line here and then answer, right? This is the value after the first year. So don't think it's always going to be this long. All right. I want you to try the question right beside it there that has the chart. And then I want you to try the one right underneath it that doesn't have the chart. And there you're free to do whatever you want, however you want it for the next one that's underneath, right? Doesn't have a table or anything like that. You just do whatever you feel like you need to do. You can base it on what you've done before, but figure out the depreciation or basically fill in the table for both of those. Okay? Let's do that for a bit and then we'll continue. I'll start going over this way you can compare and see if you did this right. So everybody focus up here again. So the you try, I will do the one without a chart down here, but I want to focus on this first. Right, so it's 25%. You figure out 25%. Be careful with your rounding. So I did it a little differently. I put my original right here. I take that off. I'm left with this after the first year. Repeat for the second year. I lose a little less. That's something you need to watch out for. You should be losing less every year. And then you're left with 19,349. So total depreciation is simply adding these two up. You get that. Residual value, it's basically you can just copy this one down and you're good. Okay. Now let's do this one together. I don't care if you use the table, but there's a chance that you might forget on a test or exam, like, what? How is that table again? I want you to just think through it. Like, what do I need to do here? What would I have to do? Well, if it's 15% depreciation and this is the original amount, you can bet that for year 1 you're gonna have to take the 26,101.50 and you're gonna have to multiply that by 0.15. I already have the key here, so I'm just gonna. This is probably what I will be doing most of the time moving forward. And so I know that that's how much I lost the first year. I just go like this, minus 3915.23. If you have room, most of you probably used it all up, that's fine. But if you have room, if you want to copy this, that's fine. So subtract year 2. When I subtract, I get 22,186.27. Repeat this. Now you get 3327.94. Bring this down, subtract. Year 3, when you subtract, you start off with 18,858.33. Multiply that by 0.15. That's 28.75. Okay. Now, total depreciation. So these three numbers, are you talking math? Okay. Try to whisper. 1, 2, 3, these three numbers, that's 10,071.92. So that's my total depreciation. Residual value, however, I still have to continue. To figure out the residual value, I'd have to go 18,858.33 minus that last amount that was lost. So don't erase anything just yet, right? So the residual value would be 16,029.58. Okay. That's the residual value. Like, you take this amount off one more time, and so this is what you have left at the end of the third year. So you lost a bunch. Does that make sense? Okay. And this is what you, and you should also be able to tell, like, if you were to take the original minus what you are left, what you have left, right? These two, if you subtract these two, you should get this number, right? That's how much was lost over 3 years. I will probably on a test not go past 2 years. Usually 2 years is about it, but on ACs, I probably will go up to 3. So just watch out for that. The challenge, I'm going to leave that for now, but that's the formula that would get any number of years for you. But I'm just going to leave that for now because that was just for fun. Okay, here's where you want to write. You want to write things down on page 7. Okay, you need to have at least 2 to 3 of these on your study sheet. I'm going to give you more, but we're going to talk about the pros, the advantages, and cons, right? So I'm going to say advantages and disadvantages. Right, the pros and cons of buying a new vehicle. And so what the province and me, what we usually do is we set up a scenario, right? You're, let's say you just got your first job, like a career, and you're ready and you need a reliable vehicle to go to work. Justify or explain why it's a good idea to buy a new car. You would pick one of these here and try to make it applicable to that scenario. So for example, if you buy new, your car is more fuel efficient. Boom, you get a mark there. And so let's describe these a bit more. Lower maintenance cost. I have this written down so that you guys, I can keep it nice and short and sweet, right? New vehicles, new cars come with warranty. major repairs are covered. I would even say that nowadays they even give you free oil changes for a year. Like I've heard of that too. So if you think of that, you want to throw that in there. Sometimes dealerships offer free. Sometimes it's for the life of the warranty. So you can put that in there too, but I'm not going to add that. Customization options. Okay. Why is that a good idea? You are able to order from a variety of options. You can, so for example, the color, the trim, the rims, the engine. Sometimes you want a bigger engine, or sometimes you want a hybrid, or whatever. Um, that all can be customized. I don't know if you're ever bored, go imagine the car of your dreams, go to the website, and you can literally like customize it exactly the way you want it. It's almost like ordering from McDonald's, right? Oh, I want this, and then the price just starts changing on the side. So it's pretty cool. Another good thing about a brand new car is that you don't have to worry about hidden damages. We were talking yesterday about hidden damages. You don't have to worry about that when it's a brand new one. So that's a good, um, unlike a used vehicle, you don't have to worry about previous damage. It is safer compared to a used vehicle. Would you agree with that? The new cars come with more and more safety features, right? It used to be one airbag for the driver, and then they added one for the passengers, and now there's like a curtain, right? Like even for everybody that's behind you gets one. Lane departure assist, right? If your car comes off the lane, it'll warn you, or if somebody's coming and there's a blind spot, it'll warn you. So newer cars come equipped with the latest safety features. Cars come equipped with latest safety features. That's why they're considered safer. I'll say more airbags, right? More airbags. Um, Lane departure assist. Etc. Backup cameras. Backup cameras. My car beeps, right? As soon as it notices something, it'll just let me know there's something there. Um, Makes it safer, right? More fuel efficient. Let me just see here. New cars have to meet the latest emission standards. Which makes them more fuel efficient. And with gas prices, right, these days, you want a fuel efficient car. Okay, so I picked the wrong car for fuel efficiency, right? A truck is just not the way to go on that one. But I like to go fishing. I like to go hunting. I pull stuff, right? So I need my truck, but it's not very fuel efficient. Um, Usually gets a better finance rates. Um, New cars will often have 0% interest, or 1% to 2%, anything in that in between. But zeros is a big thing. You will hear that 0% financing, right, for up to 48 months or 50 or 60 months, whatever it is. Yes, you're paying a whole lot more, and I would argue the interest is in the price, but nevertheless, it's 0% financing or 1 to 2%. Versus at a bank, if you buy a used one, 7, 8% right now, so it's a lot more. Cons, disadvantages, higher depreciation costs, right? Most of the value is lost in the first few years. Of ownership. You will lose a lot more money than if you buy a used one. I can guarantee you that. Yeah, go ahead. More expensive to insure. The replacement value is higher, so it costs more to insure. It really comes down to like how much will Autopack have to pay you if this car gets into an accident. And trust me, these days it doesn't take much for the car to be a write-off. I'm sure you know stories, right? A brand new car, boom, just a little. You think it's just like, oh, it's just the fender or whatever. Quite often they'll write it off, and so it's a lot of money for Autopack to pay that. You pay for freight and PDI. Right? What should I say here? All new vehicles pay, uh, pay for transportation. Now, I will say this, some dealers, right, and you might even know someone that is a car, like owns a car dealership or works for one. Sometimes they waive it, I get it, but that's at their discretion, right? But technically, if you see these semis with the brand new cars, somebody's paying for that, right? Somebody's paying to transport the car from one city to another or from one dealership to another. That's usually there. You pay for air and tire tax. Uh, I'll just leave it like that. I think that's just a standalone. You pay for those things. You would not pay for those if it's a used one. And last, uh, you pay a lot more for what happened there? For options or custom features compared to a used one. So let's say you want a moonroof or a sunroof or whatever. If you just look for it on Kijiji and you just come across it, the price won't be a whole lot different than another car that's similar condition. But if you're at a dealership and you want that, like you're like, no, I want that, you're gonna pay top dollars just for that sunroof for sure. It's gonna probably be 1,000 or more. So you pay a lot more if you want that and it's brand new. I'm gonna leave you with those. That's all I'm gonna say there. And I think you can probably just use the rest of the class to either work on the pages I'm going to assign or update your study sheet, whatever you want to do. So for example, depreciation, if you want to add that, do it now. I would just do 1 year. 1 year worth of depreciation, or maybe 2 lines. Make a short summary on how you're doing that and label it very specifically. And then have two of each of these here. Two of each of these that resonate with you, right? At least two. You don't have to have the whole thing written down, maybe just the bullets, and that's fine. So for homework, I'm just gonna say, give me a moment here, 9 to 12. So you already did a bunch of these questions on 9, right? So I'm just gonna say homework pages 9 to 12. So there you have buying a new car, you have depreciation, you have all of the things we've talked about. You even will be asked to justify why someone should or should not buy a new car. So take the rest of today's class to just prepare for that. And then tomorrow we'll have a short little AC on that. And if you have questions, let me know, okay? I will look for that key and I will post it. Thank you guys. You were great.